On Larry King Now, Grammy-nominated musician Julian Lennon, opening up about his late father, the iconic John Lennon.
There was a great deal of anger there, but there's also, you know, I've grown up a lot, and there's been forgiveness since then.
Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Julian Lennon, the musician, filmmaker, photographer, humanitarian, the son of the music icon and Beatles legend John Lennon and his first wife, Cynthia Lennon. His debut album, Velote, was that pronounced right? Velote, launched him onto the scene almost 30 years ago. Julian's now back with his first studio album in 15 years called Everything Changes. Does it? Does everything change?
It certainly does.
Is it safe to say that you were born to be a musician? You got the right genes.
To be honest with you, I don't really know, because I actually fell in love with acting in school, and I was offered a scholarship to the Shakespeare company. You know, but I picked up a guitar, and
the rest is history.
And kind of the rest is history. Yes, I mean.
All right. So why 15 years between the earlier work and now the new one? Well,
you know, I've never had the easiest relationship, I think, with the music industry, the business or the media, on many levels. It's just been a tough road. I've been bashed a lot, you know.
Because of your name? Yeah.
It's been, I think, a lot harder than easier than people might think. You know, when people don't take you personally seriously as an artist, but just only want to know you because of your father.
Blame you because of your name.
Well, yeah. They want to know you because of your father, and that's it. And that's a tough one to ride. I mean, I was thinking about, you know, the fact that every time I went to a new school, you know, I was introduced by the headmaster of the school at the first day of assembly that here's John Lennon's kid. And so to even begin to try and make real friends at that stage was a tough thing to do.
Did you understand it, though? Why the guy had to say that, in a sense?
Well, I don't think he did have to say that. I mean, there were many other kids that came from very wealthy families that weren't necessarily in the limelight.
There's the rub.
Well, exactly. Therein lies the rub.
You worked, though, with legendary Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler, right?
That's true.
Did you learn from him? Is he on the new? He's on the new.
He's on the new. Yes, he's on the lead track of the album, the first single.
What's he like to work with?
He's great. He's you have to catch him when you can. He works a lot himself. I mean, at the time that we were doing that, he was on Idol. He was also recording the new album of theirs. He was also rehearsing for a live tour. So he was on the go. So to actually trap him for 2 hours to actually write a song was a bit tough.
We'll talk about photography in a minute, but is that what you've been doing mostly in this 15-year interim, or have you been concerting?
Oh, no. I got out of the business entirely. I'd had
left
enough.
Music.
Yeah, because of the relationship I have with the business, and I feel let down a lot, and I feel that I do work my hiney off as much as the next man, if not more. My office never closes, as far as I'm concerned, and that just means that I'm always working on projects one way or another. Whether
we're going to see a clip in a minute from one. So, what brought you back? Why now?
Because I just think that you know, music lives within, and I love the process of finding a song that relates to people, that I get goosebumps. You know, for me, writing a song, all three elements of the song, the music, the lyrics, and the melody, all have to have the same intent, all have to have the same emotion for it to be a marriage and for me to get goosebumps.
So you missed it?
So I kind of missed it, yes.
You also, tell me about photography. How'd you latch on to that?
Well, it was actually to try and keep it short. I was doing a campaign for lupus because a friend of mine, Lucy, who was the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, she passed away, and so I was
terrible disease,
awful, awful. And I've become an ambassador for Lupus Foundation of America in the meantime. But we were working on a campaign, and we were using Timothy White, who's an incredible photographer, and he sent me some photographs, and I edited them and sent them back, and he said, let me see your work, and I showed him the work, and he said, you should do something with this. And I said, no. He said, I said, listen, if you're serious about this, then, you know, if you support me in this and you help me put an exhibition together, then let's go for it.
So you've debuted photography exhibits at the Morrison Hotel Galleries in New York City?
That's where I first started.
What do you like to shoot?
Landscapes are my favourite, but I do like a lot of fly-on-the-wall stuff. I've been doing a lot of that recently too.
What makes a good photographer?
I think capturing the moment and the emotion of whatever that is.
In the eye?
Yeah. I actually love the editing process after as well.
Oh, you do all that too?
Yeah. I mean, I would call myself probably more a visual artist than a photographer, to be honest with you.
You want to do cinematography?
I don't know if I'd get into that or not. You know, maybe that's further down the road, one step at a time.
The new album is Everything Changes. The guest is Julian Lennon. Is Everything Changes, by the way, one of the songs in the album?
That's the
lead song is
the first song on the track, yeah, on the album. Sorry.
So this thing you had, the hearing your father's name all the time, did you wind up having a kind of dislike for him? I don't mean to be personal. When my father died, my father died, I was only 9.5.
Sure.
I was angry at him.
Sure.
I didn't understand death,
oh, yeah,
and I took it as leaving me.
Of course, of course. I mean, there was a great deal of anger there, but there's also, you know, I've grown up a lot, and there's been forgiveness since then. But it was tough, yeah. It was very tough growing up, that's for sure.
Did he have an influence on your music?
Oh, absolutely, no question about that. I mean, I mean, as you know, as much as Steely Dan, as much as Keith Jarrett, as much as many other artists, but certainly I think the Beatles were at the forefront of all of that. I mean, anybody that wanted to be a songwriter, excuse me, of any kind, would look to them for how they constructed a song.
Can you explain musically what they had? What did they do that other groups didn't do?
That's a tough one. They pulled things out of the ether that nobody else did. I think it was more about exploration. They were willing to challenge themselves and challenge songwriting and challenge music in a way that probably not many other artists had done or did do at that time, maybe apart from the Beach Boys, you know?
The great conductor Arthur Fiedler told me that Beatles symphonically will live forever.
Oh, it's
their chord changes, their music, they were revolutionary.
I heard there was even someone who took Dad's solo music on the road and orchestrated it. Well, and they just sang with the full orchestra. And one song in particular, Julia, which was about my grandmother, goosebumps, absolute goosebumps. In fact, it affected me more that way than actual in the sort of pop rock sense.
How old were you when he passed?
17.
Where were you?
I was actually in my bed, which was
in New York.
No. I never lived in New York in that respect.
You with your mother?
You know, yeah, I was with my mother in North Wales. She was actually with Maureen Starkey, Ringo's ex-wife, in London, who was a dear best friend, and I was actually in North Wales at the time. And literally, I heard a noise, and it was the chimney fell in. And you know, when you just have that gut feeling that something's wrong, something's really wrong.
Yeah.
And I went downstairs, and all the curtains were closed, and I thought, this is just too bizarre. But who knew what it was at the time? And then opened the curtain, press outside everywhere, and my stepfather had been told not to tell me until Mum, you know, arrived. But I just said, what's going on? You got to tell me. And my first concern at that point was to make sure that Mum was okay, more than anything, you know.
Really? Yeah.
Absolutely, because
She still cared for him.
you know, absolutely. I mean, that was the first love of her life. So, you know, she'd known him much longer than I'd ever known him, and was much more closer than I had ever been. So it was all about looking after her, and it has been ever since.
Do you keep in touch with the players, the McCartneys, the Yoko Onos, the Ringos? Do you?
Every once in a while. Every once in a while we bump into each other and say hello, you know.
So living with this legacy,
Yeah.
do you think the end result is you benefited from the name, hindered by the name, or it's a wash?
Wow. I wouldn't say I benefited it in the public sense, but I would say it's probably made me the man I am today. Along with the fact that I want to make my mother proud more than anything else. That is number one.
That's very nice. Do you play all the time? Are you writing all the time?
No, I very much consider myself a songsmith rather than a player. I mean, I'm one of those people that if I write and sing and do a project, once I'm done, I'm done. I literally, if I have to go on the road again, I have to go and relearn all of the songs, all of the chords. It's just one of those things. I always want to progress. I always just want to move forward.
It's been a great pleasure. Learned a lot, and I really thank you for coming.
My pleasure. My pleasure too.
Everything Changes. That's my guest, Julian Lennon, and you can buy the new album, Everything Changes, exclusively on iTunes.